But very often I'll receive files that have manual line breaks, and that also have weird things like, apparently in American education, it's normal to teach them that after a full stop, after a period, yeah, you add a double space.
I do that.
No. Oh, no, you learned that as well in
England, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But I find in a lot of online publications it just gets stripped out anyway. So.
It gets stripped out, but that's work.
Mm.
You know, with every story that I received on my slash pile, I had about a 30 to 45 minute job ahead of me just to clean it up, to get rid of the manual line breaks. A lot of that can be done automatically, but you still got to pay attention to it. And then there's also issues that you'll encounter with people from other countries. Wow, I think the motographers are right. But where you get, oh, there's a window open there.
No, closed.
Is the
Windows are closed. No, it's just
very nice. They're all closed. It's just all base. Wow, that sounds like a powerful machine. But so with people from different countries, they have different. Fuck off! That's right. You keep running, bastard.
It's a motorcycle.
Faggot. Oh, come on, you've seen that South Park episode, I can
Yes.
say it. Okay. So we want a clean file that doesn't have too many issues, and with files that have been produced in word processors outside of like England and America, you can wind up with problems of character formatting, because different languages use different characters, and even though you don't know, your software may be saying it with that can cause weird conflict. So then when you wanted to type an M dash or something, you wind up with a weird character. I should have actually got it. The first proof print that I got of Fang Volume 1, it's one of my prized possessions, because I've been working like crazy to get it finished on time. I wanted it to be finished before the start of September. And as I explained in the other panel that I just did, I used a print-on-demand service. So I prepared the Acrobat document, the PDF document, and it was absolutely perfect. And I uploaded it just as I was about to go on holiday. And then I came home, and the proof print, the first copy that I ordered, was right there waiting for me. It was so exciting. Oh no, I'm telling you the wrong way around. It arrived just before I was going to go on holiday. It was 5 years ago, give me a break. It arrived just before I was going to go on holiday. I opened it up, so excited. My bag was packed, and then I opened it up, and it was fucking gibberish. It was, I mean, symbols were all over the place. There was not one letter in there. And apparently this was due to some kind of weird file conversion issue, but yeah. That's not something that an editor's going to enjoy. So the cleaner the file, the happier we're going to be. And that's just a basic bit of sort of technology and logistics. But starting out with a nice clean file, that makes a really good impression. And the next thing that makes a good impression once they actually start to read the story is, of course, spelling and grammar. I've had many situations where I've been asked to read something by a very cheerful and happy amateur writer, and he'd say something like, actually Kyle Gold just had a live journal post on exactly this subject, where they'd say, I know the spelling and grammar is kind of shitty, but can you read it anyway and tell me what you think? Well, I think the spelling and grammar is kind of shitty. You know, that's the first thing, and I'm not going to keep reading that. Except if I'm an editor. If I'm an editor, I'm still going to keep on reading it. But it's kind of it's kind of lazy. If you submit a story that has grammatical and syntactical errors, one of the things that distinguishes professional writers from amateurs, the professional writers, they just spend a lot more time on each story. They don't just write it and then just check it real quick and then go on, oh, check it 10, 20 times. They'll cut out anything that's not relevant stylistically, but they'll also be paying attention to every single typo and syntactical error that can be in there. Because at the end of the production of a book comes the proofreading, which is a fucking nightmare. I mean, you're sitting there, you have like Frank William Bond, something like 310 pages that I had to go through 3, 4, 5 times, reading every single story, every single page, every single letter, over and over again, just to make sure that I caught them all. Because that's the only way that you're going to catch your typos. You just have to go over them again and again and again, because you're so used to reading at speed that your eyes will actually skip things that don't make sense, simply because you already understand where the sentence is going, or you already understand the word. So you can also really impress your editor by producing something that is fully proofread, that you've done it yourself. Probably you'll also want to give it to someone else and give them the job. Don't even think about the story, just look for any typos in there. And it's a lot of work. I mean, suddenly the production of this story that you've got, it just got 5 times more time consuming. But if you want to get it published, do yourself a favor and do your editor a favor and put that effort into there. Yeah.
I've proofread for someone in the past, and I found the only way to catch spelling errors for me was to read it backwards, to not have yourself skip over stuff.
Yeah. To read it backwards is a very good way to go about it. I actually found it quite difficult to do that, especially because it makes no sense. And if you're proofreading a 300-page document and you're doing that, you'll just find yourself kind of zoning out, and then you're going through it like a really jaded Christian going through his Hail Marys and not meaning what he's saying. But yeah, that's a good way to go about it, especially if it's your own work, because it detaches you from this notion that you already know where it's going. It detaches you from that confidence, that overconfidence that prevents you from finding the errors. Yes, I actually totally see you holding your finger on. No, go on.
One thing I noticed, obviously, when I'm British, but when I've been writing for American cons, I've got obviously adopted American spelling, and I sometimes American syntax as well. But obviously sometimes, because I went to school in Britain, I sometimes miss over some of the American spellings, maybe. That sort of thing.
Well, just do your best. I mean, your editor is going to realize that you're British and that you're going to need assistance with that. Show that you've done your best. Do as much as you can, and maybe mention it in your cover letter. But be careful how you do that. We'll talk about the cover letter in a bit. A good editor is going to realize that this is just something that he has to do. It's part of his job to make sure that your story comes out okay. So yeah, he's going to realize that that's what he has to do. So it sounds like a bit of a stupid piece of advice. It sounds like it's kind of ridiculous that you guys have come all the way up the stairs, past the pool, near the toilets, to come and listen to someone who tells you that you just need to fucking spell check your work. But you really can't be hammered in enough. When you submit a story, your job is to make a good first impression. First impression really matters, because the first impression that you make in your editor is going to be passed on to the first impression that you make to your readers, and your readers will have paid money for the book and they expect it to be excellent. And really making sure that your spelling is okay, that's going to put a feather in your cap.
I think it's quite an easy one to fix as well. It's like a small hurdle that puts you above a lot of the competition. Whereas if you're trying to come up with structural problems and character arcs and that seems a lot more difficult. So you just got
Yeah. Actually fixing structural problems in a story, that's a much tougher job, and that's much more specific to every situation. So that's not something that we're necessarily going to be talking about today. But here's a bit of advice. If you think that editing and proofreading your story is an easy thing to do, then you could work even harder at it. And I'm not saying that you're not doing a good job, but if you think if it's not mind-numbingly boring and frustrating, then you're not working hard enough. Yeah. I mean, it's a shitty thing, but
I just mean that the basic level of spelling and grammar I think is easy. You obviously want to go on top.
I agree. And in the furry fandom that we're in, there's a lot of amateur writers who don't put that amount of energy in there. So yeah, just having that kind of professional attitude immediately raises your hit points. You had a question, sir?
Ich sage in German.
Ich stehe ein klein bisschen Deutsch.
Okay. Die meisten Verlage wollen also gar keinen Text eingeschickt bekommen, nur eine Zusammenfassung, eine Kurzzusammenfassung der Geschichte. Und das heißt, man kann eigentlich gar nicht sein Talent beweisen, sondern man muss einfach nur eine bestimmte vorgegebene Zusammenfassung geben und das war's dann. Und da weiß nicht, da bekommt doch der Editor da überhaupt keinen Eindruck.
I think you're talking about the cover letter. I understood like 65% of that, but perhaps you could, your friend could clarify for us.
We made the experience that the editoring houses don't want to get the whole story or the whole work, but only an excerpt of it, a short description of the story. And in these few lines, which should be about 10 pages or something like that, I think it's not possible to show them that you have put much effort in your work, that you are very good at the grammar and stuff like that.
And the quality of the story
Can't be shown in such a...
You don't want a novel length sort of stuff.
Yep.
Okay, so if you're talking about submitting novels, then indeed they're not necessarily going to want to read the whole manuscript. They're going to want to know what it's about, because larger publishing houses, they kind of have an agenda. They kind of have a plan of which markets they want to address. During a particular season, they're going to look at the trends of the buying trends for different book chains and different online retailers, just to see what's moving, and to see either if they can follow a trend or maybe get ahead of the curve. So they're looking for what is the story about, who is it going to appeal to. So yes, in those cases, you can't really show them the quality of the fiction, because they don't care about the quality of the fiction at that point. They just care about what is it about. In the furry fandom, it's much smaller. The number of people who have completed a novel of more than, say, 60 to 75,000 words, it's a very, very small number that have completed something. So editors are generally a bit more willing to read a full manuscript, or at least to read like the first 10, 20, 50 pages of a manuscript.